My name is George Pagano, and along with my teammate Caitlin Miller, we rowed across the Atlantic Ocean in the Talisker Whiskey Atlantic Challenge. We left the Canary Islands in December of 2015 and traveled 3,000 miles to Antigua in the Caribbean and arrived in February of 2016. This was an unassisted crossing, meaning we received no outside help. Had all of our food on board, a water maker for our fresh water, and had no use of sails or a motor, only oar power. The reason why I took on this challenge was to raise my passion and love for rowing to the next level. I had rowed in high school and college on rivers and lakes, and so naturally it sort of seemed like the ocean was the next challenge to take on and try to tackle it in this challenge. Today, I want to share with you the tools that I developed that helped me take on my challenge. And first, I want everybody to think about some sort of goal or endeavor that they've thought about taking on, but maybe, have not or are pursuing right now. Whether it's going back to school or changing a career or starting a new business or taking on a physical challenge like myself, whether it's a marathon or an Ironman. We all usually have these challenges, and sometimes we don't take them on because we're scared or we have this fear, and this fear can be fear of failure, not coming through, and just not wanting to have to deal with the disappointment, so we don't even try the challenge. Another fear is fear of letting other people down. And finally, a fear that others may be right, that we can't do something. And that fear creeps into our mind and we don't try the challenge. But I want to stress to not let other people affect what you do. You're in charge of your life. You're in charge of the challenges that you want to take on. If you're passionate about something, you can tell yourself that I can do this and I will do this. And that's the first tool that I learned in the ocean row. You need to believe in yourself. 2.5 years before taking on this challenge, I was telling people that I was going to row across the Atlantic, going to sponsors and saying that I was going to row across the Atlantic, telling friends and family. And people looked at me like I was crazy. It was hard for them to understand the feat that I was trying to take on and that I was so comfortable with saying that. But I truly believed that myself and Caitlin, we would get across. I believed in our abilities, in our training, in our boat. And that's something that you need from the outset when taking on a challenge. If you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to succeed. Next, you need to surround yourself with a good support group. That's usually your friends and family. They're there to help you get through the tough times of preparation and tough times during the challenge. They'll help your confidence build up and help you keep fighting and keep pushing to get to your end goal. Next, you need to commit to the challenge. This really applies to the preparation before the actual challenge. You need to commit saying, I'm going to do this, and mean it. And when you're training or the steps before the actual challenge, you need to do everything at 100%. You can't say, oh, I'm going to do this tomorrow, because tomorrow turns into tomorrow and the next day and 2 days and 5 days and 7 days later, you still haven't done the task that you said you would do. And all you're doing is delaying your end goal, delaying the process for you to achieve the success that you're seeking. And finally, just know that you're going to face these mini challenges within the challenge. Now, some of these you may be able to forecast beforehand. Some you won't. For us, things that we knew that would happen is seasickness. I knew I was going to get seasick because I'm not a seasoned sailor. And it's just something I had to get through. And after the first 3 nights, I was good. The rowing in general, that was just the wear and tear of having to be out in the hot sun and rowing 3 hours on and then resting for 3 hours, and then getting back on to row for 3 hours, 24/7. I just knew that that was something that I'd have to get used to. But I got through a day, I got through 3 days, I got through a week, I got through a couple weeks, and then you just tell yourself, I've done this before, I can keep doing it. Isolation, that's a tough one. We knew that we'd be isolated from the rest of the world, really. There were very few tankers that we saw out there. We didn't see any other people. And so that was just something that you had to sort of get used to and sort of just accept was going to happen. Fear of sharks. I was very scared of sharks. Luckily, we didn't see one until the last day, and it was about a 4-foot shark. But sort of just, tell myself, I can get through this. I know I'm scared of them, but it's, I haven't seen one in a week, then 2 weeks, and then ultimately pretty much 2 months. But the 3 mini challenges that I want to talk about are ones that are sort of unexpected or hard to train or prepare for. And that's going to happen with any challenge that you take on, big or small. So first, one mini challenge that we faced was in January, about midway through the race. This race started in December because it was after hurricane season. But then in January, we were told that there was an approaching storm that was developing, and we knew that was a possibility, that we would go through a storm and probably have to go into the cabin. But what we weren't prepared for, or weren't thinking would happen, is that this storm would turn into a hurricane, which it did. And it was the first hurricane in January in 1938, since 1938. Just our luck. But what we had to do is we had to accept it. We had to come to terms that there was nothing we could do. Mother Nature was in full control, and we were at her mercy of what happened. I can't change the weather. I can't change the conditions. We had to accept that. So we stayed in the cabins for 3 days straight and had to wait it out. That's all we could do. And in those moments, sitting in the cabin, I had to tell myself, how can I stay positive? And what I did was I told myself, I'm getting more rest than usual. I'm sleeping for longer periods. I'm not as sore as I would be coming off a shift. I don't have to deal with the hot sun beating down on me, coming off of the water onto me. That positive spin kept me in a good mental state and got me through those 3 days while in the cabin. The next mini challenge that I faced, was a close encounter with a shipping vessel, a tanker. It was about 2 weeks before we got into Antigua at nighttime. We got an alarm on our monitor saying that we were on a collision course with this vessel. And that wasn't out of the ordinary. It would happen from time to time. But it stayed on collision course with us and got within 2 miles of us. We radioed them, and no response. We just wanted to make sure they acknowledged our position, acknowledged that they saw us out there on their monitors at least. They get within 1 mile. We radio them again. No response. At this moment, neither of us are freaking out. We know we can't go crazy. We're in full training mode, figuring out what we can do to try to get their attention. We have our nav light on that can be seen from 4 miles away. We're radioing them. We're trying to remain calm because freaking out will do nothing. It will just create bedlam, and we can't have that. We need to remain calm. And some things are out of your control. Their non-response to us is out of our control. We'd like for them to respond, but they weren't. And as the port and starboard lights are getting wider and wider, telling us that the ship is getting closer and closer, we're still in full training mode trying to figure out how we can connect with them. And fortunately for us, they changed their course. They never radioed back to us, but they changed their course but they were close enough so that we could smell the diesel fuel from their engines. And after that point, once we saw them changing course, then we freaked out. We didn't want that to ever happen again. And it was sort of weird how we were on complete autopilot during the situation as it was occurring. And once we were relieved, then we freaked out. That's okay. That's part of the challenge. The last mini challenge that we faced was about 400 to 500 miles left in the race. We hit this rough patch of water. We weren't getting the mileage we were accustomed to per day. We were accustomed to getting 50 to 55 miles per day. And in this patch of water, we were getting maybe 20. So that was pretty demoralizing. You know, you're accustomed to something for a long period of time, and then you're out on the oars for 3 hours in the hot sun. You can smell and taste the burger and fries that you've been promised, the food that you've been craving for, being able to see your family after 2 months, and you're going so much slower than you're accustomed to, and it really stinks. But again, you need to stay positive. You need to tell yourself, okay, we're not getting what we wanted, but we're still moving in a positive direction. And that's what I told myself. We're not getting the mileage that we were used to, but we're at least still getting close to Antigua, and that's the main goal. We're not going backwards. We're not staying in the same place. We are still moving forward. If you let these mini challenges get underneath you or annoy you, it's going to make the challenge that much more difficult. And the goal is not to make the challenge more difficult on yourself. You need to be positive, and that'll get you through these mini challenges. And this mindset carried us through, and eventually the conditions changed. The winds and the current got more in our favor, and we were able to get to Antigua still under our 60-day goal limit. So, the main points of this talk is to believe in yourself when you're taking on a challenge. Saying, I can do this. That's important. You need to have a good support group, mostly friends and family. They're going to be there for you in the tough times. You need to commit to the challenge. You need to be all in. If you want it, you'll get it, but you need to want it. And then finally, just know you're going to have these mini challenges in the challenge. These bumps in the road are going to happen, but that's going to make the success so much sweeter. If I didn't have these stories to tell, I wouldn't have much of a story. And that's not saying I want it to be, close to death, but to get through those tough moments and to come out on the other side that much higher, it's all worth it. And it just shows the power of the human spirit that we all have, and we all can be successful in a challenge that we take on. So embrace life challenges and never give up on your dreams. Thank you.